I keep hearing density, altitude density getting mentioned. I don't understand it. Apparently, is why some cars go lean. Surely the ECU can be adjusted on AFR.
Yeah, density altitude is exactly what it sounds like. It's how dense the air is um, for the conditions your engine is running at the time. So it usually correlates with altitude.
It's expressed as an altitude.
That's why people call it density altitude, because as you go up in altitude, the density of the air is going to be less.
Yeah, and it can be plus or minus.
There's a standard where basically a DA of 0 would ideally be at sea level at normal, all normalized conditions.
There's apparently some thread or discussion out there that we've heard of several times that dense air causes the motors to go lean, which causes the rings to seize.
There's all something, but no, the ECU.
We've addressed that in a previous.
Yeah, the ECU on all of these motors, all of these engines we're talking about these days, have a number of sensors that take into account all of the atmospheric conditions that it's running in. So it's got a barometer on the ECU, so it knows the atmospheric pressure. It's got ambient air temperature as a calculation. It, more importantly, has multiple usually intake temperature sensors to know exactly what the air temperature getting into the motor is. So, I mean, all of that already should be accounted for. And on the 3-liter in particular, DA is really interesting because the delta of pressure or temperature is very small compared to what you see going across the supercharger itself. So your air temperature increase is huge going across that supercharger. So starting just from a cold pole to a warm pole on any given day is going to be probably a bigger change than it is a cold DA or better DA day versus a higher altitude DA day. So
generally, the biggest thing that happens when the DA drops is your car gets faster.
Yeah. And you've got more air getting into the cylinders.
We don't have any evidence that any cars are blowing up on our tuning based on the DA. We see our customers running their fastest times in the winter when DAs are extremely advantageous for making power.
Yeah.
The DA is just a free way to get more fuel into your motor. Yeah. And ultimately, oxygen is what burns inside these motors. Oxygen is part of the combustion process.
Yep.
The more oxygen you can get in there, as long as you can add the fuel, you can make more power.
So, I mean, there are a lot of V8s these days that are on pretty strung out setups. There's also that they're monster pulleys and maybe on the ragged edge of this and that, but DA in and of itself is.
But I think those people know what DA is.
I would hope so, but I don't know. You ask, there's threads that keep coming up still. It's like, hey, what pulley combo should I get? And everybody's just like, run this 200 whatever millimeter pulley in and upper and all this stuff.
People are doing all kinds of, and they're stacking JV4s.
There's all kinds of terrible combinations and or just advice out there that's maybe not loaded with enough information as to what you need to consider if you're going to go right to the ragged edge of what's
Let's keep banging through with filming.